นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนัมมัสสามิ Blessings, good evening. One of the questions people ask me, and I think other teachers all the time, is how to deal with pain. Not just in meditation, but also in daily life. And not just physical pain, but also mental pain. And that's not surprising because pain is part of life, isn't it? It's a rare person who never experiences any pain. Once you're born into this world, then it's part of your experience. You have pleasure, you have pain. And we tend to be attracted to things that bring us pleasurable feelings, and make us feel good. And we reject and want to get away from pain and painful experiences. But having a body, a human body, will bring you pain from time to time because it's a sensitive thing. A lot of the time we actually blot out painful experiences by simply ignoring them, putting our mind on other things. And if we were fully aware of all the painful experiences we had with this body, life would become very intolerable quite quickly. So in a way you could say the fact that we can distract ourselves and find pleasure keeps us going. But keeps us going not very well because it also is conducive to delusion and attachment and more delusion. And that causes more suffering. So because our life is bound up with both physical pain and mental pain, the Buddha recognized that and he gave us these teachings and this way out of pain and suffering, or how to deal with it. Particularly the practice of mindfulness, satipatthana, 4 foundations of mindfulness, and training the mind to know conditions, painful conditions, pleasant conditions, as they are. Know the nature of this body, feelings, the mind, objects of mind, as they are with mindfulness. It's a way out of discontent and suffering. It's a way to manage pain if you do have a lot of pain coming up in your experience. But whether you have a lot of pain or a little bit of pain, it's a way to know it and remove the delusions and the attachments that form around painful experiences. What you might call the second arrow. The Buddha talked about how as humans we experience pain in different ways. And it's like an arrow, literally like an arrow stabbing you or spearing into your body. And then there's the reaction to that pain, what we think about it, we attach to it, we identify with the feeling, and then we create more suffering because of that attachment. And we complain about it, have negative trains of thought, worry about it, fear it, hate it. And this is like a second arrow that comes in. And this is the one that we can remove or even prevent from happening through our practice of mindfulness. But it takes practice. But mindfulness is a training. It's a practice to be done. It's a training to be done. And occasionally we are naturally mindful. Just seem to be in the right space, the right place of mind to be mindful and aware. But much of the time we're not. So we have to cultivate it, develop it. So that brings us to the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness, directing mindfulness and training mindfulness. And the Buddha began, when he taught this, with the body, mindfulness of body. Because it's what's so obvious and apparent to us as a human being. It's what you see first when you look at yourself or you look at somebody else. You're seeing the body. You can't see the mind, it's invisible. You can only see the mind expressed through the body. So the body is what's most obvious to us. But it's also the most basic attachment and thing we identify with. So teaching mindfulness, the Buddha had us begin with the body. And then he gave these different methods and ways to become mindful using the body. So using the breath, being mindful of the body by being mindful of the breathing, which is one part of the body. Using posture, to know what posture you're in at any one moment, standing, walking, sitting, lying down, and all the minor or sub-postures, so turning, stretching and getting up and getting down, all the different kinds of movements we can do with this body, they still come under posture. So it's even possible to be fully mindful in a sort of an unusual posture, like leaning or moving between two postures. So leaning from sitting, leaning down before lying. Halfway between sitting and lying, it's possible to be mindful, and it's possible even to become enlightened in that posture. If you know the story of Venerable Ananda, after walking meditation all night, being very mindful of his posture, he still had mental defilements, a subtle attachment to his body and mind with a sense of self. And that was manifesting mainly as disappointment that he wasn't yet enlightened. His desire for enlightenment and the disappointment that he wasn't enlightened was actually an obstacle holding him back from letting go. And so at the end of the night, at the 5 a.m. or whatever time it was, dawn, he decided to rest. It's like giving up because he hadn't managed to achieve full awakening, hadn't attained Nibbana. So just lying down, they say, before his head hit the pillow, his mind converged and all the factors of Margapala Nibbana came together. There's actually the release, the relinquishment of that desire for enlightenment triggered his enlightenment. But it was in the posture of neither sitting nor neither lying down. It's just halfway between the two. The posture is a big part of our practice of mindfulness of the body. Mindfulness practice with sampajanya, which is clear, all-round knowing, and atapi, energy. If you're putting effort and energy into being mindful of your posture, well, you'll notice that through the day there are many, many different postures and activities we're involved with. And not just standing, walking, sitting, lying down, but eating. You may be sitting, but you're also chewing and moving your hands, picking up food, chewing the food, swallowing, drinking, brushing your hair, bathing, going to the toilet, putting clothes on. And a lot of this is so basic, so obvious that people overlook it in terms of practicing mindfulness in daily life. They think, this is kid stuff. You teach kids to put on their clothes, how to dress. It's not for me, who I'm maybe a sincere and experienced meditator. I've been meditating for many years, and I've read the suttas and I know the Dhamma, so I've moved on to more advanced, mature aspects of the practice. I've gone beyond just being mindful of posture. But then perhaps you should come back to recollect Venerable Ananda, just being mindful of sitting and then lying down. The mind can converge in samadhi and in insight and let go of all the 10 fetters. So as a Buddhist monk or nun, you train. Many of our rules are over simple things like how to wear your robe. You wear it neatly all round. Say parimandalam, it means like putting it neatly even all round. It's quite frustrating when you first become a monk, because some of us are not naturally good with cloth or wearing things, so your robe doesn't stay on very well. So it's a practice of mindfulness, and it's also part of the first foundation of mindfulness, being mindful of just putting your robe on, or if you're a layperson, putting your clothes on properly. As Lumpur Buddhadasa used to say, just mindfully tying your shoelace. Even that sometimes we forget or get wrong. Or if you're a guy, you walk down the street and you've forgotten to zip up your fly. Or if you're a lady, you've forgotten to do something, forgotten to put tie a button up or comb your hair or something. We forget. When we're not fully mindful, we forget how to dress, or one part of our dressing. People put the wrong coloured socks on, mismatching socks, or the wrong shoes for the wrong occasion. When we're in a rush, we tend to forget things, don't we? So people forget to put their coat on even though it's cold or wet. Very simple things, but it's just an example of how we're not perfectly mindful with something as simple as dressing. Monks get frustrated when their robe falls off. In the same way, we forget things, we're not fully mindful. So if you're in a monastery, there's many rules about this. There's a monastic, rules about dress, rules about how you walk, how you sit, how you eat, to make you mindful. And the Buddha was helping us, giving us these little rules to become more mindful of posture and activity, to give us mindfulness and clear comprehension through the day. And rules help like that. And nowadays our attitude, it tends to be one of, we don't like rules, especially when they're intrusive in our life. We like freedom. We don't want people telling us to do this, do that. That's one of the sufferings. If you become a Buddhist monk, suddenly you have all these rules to take on. But if you can see they're actually helping you be mindful, then rather than seeing them as enemies or some kind of authoritarian code, that's a draconian code of regulations that's making you miserable, you could actually see them as friends, making you mindful, helping you to be mindful, helping you towards nibbana, towards enlightenment. We also have mindfulness of the body, mindfulness, contemplation of the 32 parts of the body. Some people don't like this, they find it brings up aversion or boredom, but it's at least worth investigating, trying it out. When you become a Buddhist monk, you take on this practice as part of the ordination procedure. And the preceptor reminds you of the first 5 of those 32 body parts: hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. Which is basically what you see as a human being. When you look at another human being, you're seeing hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. That's what you see. When you look at yourself in a mirror, that's what you see. That's what you know through your visual image. And through our senses, our main sense for experiencing the body is the skin. So you also can know the skin from the inside, how you feel hot and cold, pressure. If we were to somehow lose our skin through some accident or injury, life would become unbearable. When you lose your skin, your nerves are exposed. It's very painful. So the skin protects us from a lot of pain. So the outer layers of our skin are dead. When we're looking at ourselves or someone else, we're actually looking at dead matter. The skin is impermanent. Hair is dead. Skin, nails, teeth are dead material. That's why these parts of the body don't hurt. They're dead cells, so they cover over the live cells of the nerves. If anything's exposed, you immediately get pain, don't you? As you practice mindfulness of the breath, of posture, of the 32 parts of the body, you're becoming more aware and understanding certain truths about these things. And so the Buddha said, well, investigate, contemplate, and look, and what do you find? Well, you find that these 32 parts, all the breath, all the posture are impermanent. And they're dukkha. They're not able to provide permanent, lasting happiness because they're subject to change, they degenerate. We say conditioned things that arise according to conditions and pass away. And they're not self. When we're mindful, say, of these 32 parts, you see not self all the time, don't you? You see hair growing every day, little by little. And then it falls out, or you cut it, and it's gone. And you never get it back, it can never be reattached to your head. So it's clearly not a self. It's not something that lasts and exists by itself. It's conditioned, it comes about through eating food, drinking, nourishing the body, and then you get excess cells, dead cells, come out as hair. It's one way. Food that you've eaten comes out, old protein cells. You don't need to know the science of it, but just to notice that hair keeps growing and then it falls out or you cut it. It's not self. That's the same for you, same for other people. So the Buddha said, well, you might not like this practice. There's some practices we don't like. So contemplating the 32 parts may find it a bit challenging, boring, but at least take some time just to consider this body that you use every day, that your mind is sitting in and connected to, and ask some questions of yourself. How solid is it? What the simile the Buddha used for saying mindfulness of the body, the 32 parts, he said, imagine it's like a sack with different kinds of grain in it, like rice, beans, lentils, wheat, barley, millet, all the different kinds of grain. When they're dry, you put them all in a sack, and they can just sit in the sack, make a multicolored pattern in that sack, but they're all just different parts. It's like all the different body parts in this body, and they're kept together by the skin, which is like a sack. So we call it a sealed bag of skin, filled with unattractive things. That's why we're constantly cleaning the body and getting rid of the excess, the stuff we don't want. So the stuff comes out of all these orifices, the urine, the excrement, the snot, the grease, the sweat, the earwax. They're unattractive, these parts, and they're mixed up with unattractive things. They smell, they need cleaning. That's why it's difficult to meditate on. To be mindful of the body, 32 parts, is difficult, because you're looking in the opposite direction from where you normally look, which is to make them attractive, nice smelling, nice looking, pleasant for yourself, for other people. The Buddha was helping us to grow as human beings, to mature our wisdom and our understanding. So it's coming from a place of compassion. He wasn't trying to make us miserable or bored or fed up. He's trying to give us ways to see life as it is, to see that this body that we inhabit, the breath, the posture, the 32 parts, these are impermanent, unsatisfactory, not self. We said, look at the 4 elements that make up the physical body: earth, air, fire and water. Again, these are not self. They're physical elements, chemicals, physical properties that just exist in the world and come together because we have a mind that's like controlling the body and wanting it to live, so we eat and we drink and we breathe, so the body keeps going. It's just a collection of different elements that are without a self, and they don't exist as a self. They weren't born or brought into the world as with a name on them, whatever your name is. It's not like the breath that you breathe in has your name stamped on it, copyrighted, with your logo on it. That's what the mind does. That's the mind of attachment, self-identity view. Stamps a label on the breath as my breath, the physical body, my skin, my bones, the liquid, we even say my blood, my urine, and temperature. I feel hot, I feel cold. But actually these things have no labels on them, no names, no labels, they're just naturally existing elements. And that's something the Buddha said, become mindful of and investigate. To release your mind from all kinds of false understandings. So the Buddha was helping us to become more in tune, in line with reality, to see that this body is a collection of elements, parts. It's always moving, changing posture, the breath is going on, breathing in, breathing out, but there's no self in all that. None of these parts have a name on them that you can say is you or a person. They don't exist by themselves. This is where we focus our mindfulness in the beginning, because we can. You can be mindful of the breath, know the breath as it is. You can be mindful of the 32 parts, the four elements. You can be mindful of your posture. And what does that bring up? It brings up deeper understanding and awareness. You notice, why do we change posture? Well, because of painful feelings. Already that changes your attitude. Say, if you do experience pain, the most obvious one is you're sitting meditation and you want to uncross your legs or move your back or twist or do this, do that, or stand up. Just establish mindfulness, what's going on there. And there'll be some discomfort, mild or extreme, depending, in your muscles, in your joints. Perhaps you feel too cold or you feel hungry or whatever. There'll be something prompting you to want to change posture. The mind is what wants to change. The mind is reacting to the pain, saying, oh, there's this painful feeling, let's move. As you become mindful, it's not you have to have an opinion that it's good to move or bad to move, but you're just becoming more aware of the process of why you're moving, why you're changing posture. So you can make that one simple area of mindfulness through your day. Try and note how many posture changes go on from morning till night. So many, it's hard to keep track. How many movements? Where do they all come from? They come from the mind reacting to discomforts or seeking comfort. When you're walking, not just when you're walking meditation, but say you're walking from one place to another, become mindful, ask yourself, why am I walking? Simply to become mindful in that moment. I'm walking to the kitchen to make some food or something, or I'm walking to my car, to get in my car to go shopping or go to work. Simply become aware of walking. Where's it coming from? The mind is saying walk, and it's so automatic because we've done it so many times in our life. It's not like starting an old car where you might have to turn the key in the ignition and wait a while for the engine to turn on and then the car can drive. Maybe when you get older it's like that, you have to say, I'm going to get up, and then you have to work up to it because your back hurts or your joints hurt, and it's like, I'm really going to get up, I'm going to do it. Or if you've got a back injury or something, maybe it's like that. But normally it's so fast, you don't really see the thought moments behind the intention to move, do you? But that's what's going on. There's a mind saying, let's move, let's go, or let's get away from this painful feeling. So changing posture covers that over. And as long as your body responds to the intention, it's just automatic. So let's move, let's get up, let's sit down, let's go here, go there. This is all something to be mindful of. The changes of posture, how they mask or hide painful feelings. And that's why when you practice mindfulness, when you're sitting for a longer period, or you're walking meditation for a longer period, you're having to confront painful feelings. And you have to get to know them with mindfulness. But you can learn from that, can't you? As many meditators find, this is where they have breakthroughs and go to a deeper level, or their samadhi improves because they're willing to be mindful of a bit of pain, discomfort, but rather than move or distract themselves, they just observe with mindfulness and learn from the pain, from the sensations that are coming up. And very quickly people come to the awareness that pain, discomfort is impermanent. It comes and goes, it arises and ceases. Even when you're experiencing intense pain that seems to be there all the time in your experience, if you can establish mindfulness, you might notice that it is still arising and passing away very quickly. And that's why levels of pain can change. It can become more intense or less. And of course you can focus your mind on an object and absorb into the object of samadhi, and pain disappears. Just as when you have local or general anesthetic, it takes pain away. Pain is impermanent. What exposes that is the practice of mindfulness and clear comprehension, learning from it. And the same applies to mental pain, which is more subtle and often very fast because it's simply triggered by a thought or a memory. Suddenly you're in a bad mood. You're annoyed or angry or sad or afraid or anxious, simply because a thought comes into your mind. It may be related to the body as well, there may be physical pain as well, but sometimes it's just mental, what we call domanassa, mental aversion, discontent, anxiety, triggered by a thought arising apparently out of nowhere. What you could say is, well, it's just old karma bringing that thought up. You've had that thought before, you've had some experience before, and then now the conditions are ripe for that thought to arise again, combined with an unpleasant feeling, very subtle, unpleasant feeling, or sometimes very intense. And perception. Perception is how we remember things. So the perception is negative, you're remembering that experience negatively, or some negative aspect of that experience, so then you have an unpleasant feeling. But as you establish mindfulness, it's more tricky because the mind is so fast. But what's going on? It's just a memory popping into the mind, triggered by something, and then some thoughts and perceptions arise. And if you're not very mindful, it puts you in a certain mood, and it tends to stimulate more negative thinking. That mood may just continue. But if you bring up mindfulness, what happens? You know, oh, this is just a feeling with a memory, with a thought, and it arises and it passes away. You might say this is the combination of Vedana-nupassana satipatthana, mindfulness of feelings, citta-nupassana satipatthana, mindfulness of the mind and mental states. But in our experience, it's all arising together, isn't it? Your body and mind and feelings and perceptions are all there from every moment together. But when you establish mindfulness, then that becomes clearer to you. The more continuous moments of mindfulness you have, you can see thoughts arising and ceasing, memory, perception arising, ceasing. Because mindfulness gives you this quality of knowing in a detached way, just knowing the experience as just an experience, without grasping at it, clinging to it, without craving and clinging, without danha upadana. Keeping your mind in the middle, just knowing the experience. And once you know something, you can acknowledge it, or you can let it go. And this is how we clear up the mental garbage and baggage we have, which causes us so much suffering. All those second arrows need mindfulness and some clarity to recognize them, acknowledge them, but then just to let them go. And a lot of the time you don't really need to do much at all other than just establish mindfulness. And you can see it's just a thought, it's just a feeling, it's just a memory. And you let it pass because that's its nature anyway, is to pass. The reason things seem to come back again is because we grasp and cling at them from a place of delusion, lack of awareness. But if you establish mindfulness and you're clear, you say, oh, this is impermanent, it can pass, it will pass. You just let it be. You don't have to do a lot. And your mind already starts to feel a bit better and it's more free. If you let go of some stressful thought, negative attitude, strong opinion that is feeding a lot of suffering, if you do that mindfully, what's left at the end, when that thought process has passed, the feeling has passed away, what's left? You still have your mindfulness, and there's some deeper understanding in your mind now. Oh, that was impermanent. That passed away, that arose and ceased. And that sticks with you. So that's changing your mind for the better. We call this jnana dasana, clear seeing, clear knowledge and vision of the way things are. So it's like a little maturation or a little growth, mental growth of wisdom, insight. And the true nature of insight is it sticks. It may be very subtle, very occasional, but it sticks, so then it's ready for future situations where that similar kind of experience may arise again. You have that same old thought come back at you. The worry, the doubt, the anger, the desire, the unfulfilled desire, the wish that keeps bothering you. When it comes again, there's a part of the mind that says, oh, this is not self, this is impermanent. And this is the true value of mindfulness practice. It brings you to insight or to understanding that doesn't disappear on you. Some of it will, but some of it will stick. And it's all the time it's changing your view, your attitude, the way you look at things for the better. Because your aim is liberation, freedom from suffering. This is why the Buddha said you practice mindfulness, whether it's directed to the body, feelings, the mind itself. It brings great benefit, great happiness, great benefit. It brings you the happiness of samadhi, your states of calm. Brings you the happiness of wisdom, insight, that frees your mind from delusions and grasping at things in the wrong way. When we still don't understand, we grasp at things that cause us more pain, more suffering. But insight sees that and avoids that. Don't grasp, let it go. So what is the most compassionate thing we can do for ourselves or pass on to other people around us is understand more of this practice of mindfulness directed to the body, feelings, mind objects. Because this is what frees human beings or the human mind from delusion, from the causes of suffering. It's not always easy because it requires effort, patience. One of the factors the Buddha said, if you're going to be successful in practicing mindfulness, one, you need faith, confidence in the teacher. The teacher knows what they're talking about, and they've done it, they've practiced it. Whether it's the Buddha or a living teacher. You need reasonable health, because it's much harder to do it when you're sick. It's not impossible, especially if you've already practiced, you can still practice when you're sick, but when you're beginning, it's good to have a healthier body. You need effort, energy. It's not for the lazy. So that's a problem for most of us, because we all have our lazy streak. And we need to use wisdom. We need to hear these teachings to remind ourselves what to do, and then we need to apply them. Understand them and apply them. It needs wisdom. But if we develop these kind of qualities, the patience, the effort, the wisdom, the faith, and we have the good health to support us, and then the Buddha said, well, the quickest you practice this for 7 days and you'll reach awakening and the end of all your problems. Not a single problem for somebody who has practiced 4 foundations of mindfulness properly, sincerely for 7 days, completely understood it. No more problems. Full awakening. If these different qualities are a little bit less, a little bit more patchy, then maybe 7 weeks or 7 months or 7 years or 7 lifetimes. But whether it's fast or slow, it just depends on these qualities, whether you have the faith, the effort, the good health, the energy and the wisdom. And the more effort and the more effort you put into the practice, the more mindfulness you develop, the more wisdom you cultivate, all the faster the results will come. That's the fast way to Nibbana. I don't think there's any real shortcut here, or any trick. It just has to come through cultivating these qualities. Well, at least the path is open, and it's like the Buddha said, it's never wasted to practice mindfulness, cultivate this quality of mind and the associated qualities. It's never wasted. It's always good. It's always in our favor. It's always for the good of others. It's good for the world. The world needs more people practicing mindfulness. If everyone was practicing mindfulness, there would be no wars, no economic war, no physical war. People would be much more peaceful and helpful to each other. Only good things happen when you practice mindfulness. So maybe tonight I'll leave you with these reflections.